Netherlands, also known as the Dutch, are located in Western Europe, in the capital city of Amsterdam. The population is approximately 17,032,845 people. The Dutch are well known for their accomplishments in art, many legendary painters such as Vincent van Gogh. The official language spoken by approximately 90% of the population is Dutch. Additional languages spoken by 2.2% is Frisian. Since 1606, the Dutch have had many times of solid maritime, army, or immigration connection with Australia. The Dutch immigration between 1949 and 1970 was a direct consequence of World War II. Saw in the estimated 70% of 1,600 Dutch citizens were forced into leaving everything they've known behind to start a new life, eventually becoming a permanent resident in Australia. According to the 2006 census, fundamentally as a consequence of natural attrition, the amount of Netherlands-born Dutch still living in Australia had reduced. The distribution by states and territories show that Victoria continues to have the largest number, with 22,830 Dutch. Given the diminishing number, also the 2006 state status states that 300,000 Australians claim to have Dutch heritage. Statistics also show that approximately 60% of Dutch arrived in Australia under the Assisted Passage Scheme, one of many. The 2011 census reports that 65% of Dutch communities are Christians, 66% spoke English in their homes, and 32% spoke Dutch. Surrounding employment, approximately half of those hired work in professional fields, whilst others employed in sales, service, production, and transport-related roles. Currently, the demographic location of Dutch communities is in the neighbouring areas in Melbourne, including Dandenong, Frankston, and Berwick. The culture of the Dutch people is still maintained through the organisations including Associated Netherlands Society in Victoria. Yearly, they celebrate the Holland Festival in February, known as the largest festival in the Southern Hemisphere.
The Netherlands is characterized by its tolerance, practical, and down-to-earth attitude. It is the first nation to legalize same-sex marriage, and its social tolerance is also reflected on the legal use of marijuana and euthanasia. This social factor has attracted many people, such as Jews and French Huguenots, who seek religious freedom in this country, as well as Chinese immigrants and Indonesians who immigrated after the Second World War. These characteristics shaped the Dutch cuisine in many ways. For example, the typical Dutch staple food consists of simple ingredients such as potatoes, vegetables, dairy, or meat. Cooking methods are usually very simple, which involve boiling vegetables and sautéing meat with oil. Eating out was only for special occasions during the past. However, dining at a fancy restaurant has become popular as the hospitality industry developed. The cultural influences from France and Indonesia has incorporated into the Dutch cuisine as well. For centuries, the Dutch are familiar with the French cuisine or French table manner, so things like leaving the table before all have finished is considered inappropriate. Indonesian rice table of many small dishes was incorporated to the common Dutch dishes. Although fewer Dutch people have a religious faith now, many Dutch culinary traditions evolved around religion, especially the Christian belief. Like Christmas, Easter is the most important religious holiday, and the Dutch celebrate the end of the fast on Palm Sunday, which is the final Sunday before Easter. On Palm Sunday, children walk in procession to church, carrying sticks with candy, eggs, and a bread rooster on top. In the morning on Easter, breakfast is served with decorated eggs, chickens, rabbits, and other signs of spring and fertility. Most Dutch start their New Year's Eve by eating oliebollen, meaning donut balls, and the country's elderly population tend to eat special stamppot, herring, and rice pudding. In the Netherlands, national holiday called Queen's Day is celebrated to mark the country's unity and togetherness. In this special day, a range of activities including games, markets, and fireworks are performed, and people decorate themselves in orange and consume orange cakes and candies. Faced with the North Sea, the Dutch consume a lot of fresh and smoked fish such as herring. Herring is served with finely chopped raw onions and gherkins and consumed with salads, shrimp, and mayonnaise dressing as festive foods. Due to the moderate temperature and position by the sea, the difference between winter and summer temperatures are not varied widely. The most popular wintertime dishes are stamppot and dried bean soup with boiled vegetables and meats. Sometimes stamppot is served with smoked sausage and fried bacon. There are many local and seasonal varieties of stamppot, such as with apples or pears. In spring and summer, fresh vegetables like lettuce are commonly used for salads, which are served with mayonnaise or yogurt dressing. The country has one of the toughest environment regulation policy, and its people are encouraged to travel by public transport or bicycle. Farmers are supported to reduce the use of pesticides and fertilizers in their crops. The government body responsible for ensuring the national food safety is the Netherlands Food and Consumer Product Safety Authority. A recent incident in which huge batches of eggs were contaminated with insecticide has brought international attention towards the country's public health investigations and further measures.
The Netherlands is most commonly famous for the cheese production. However, there are far more traditional foods that the Dutch culture would consume that are not as recognised. The daily eating pattern in the Netherlands consists of 2 bread meals such as sandwiches or bread with toppings, as well as 1 hot meal which almost always includes potatoes. In early tradition, the hot meal was consumed at lunch or more specifically midday. However, nowadays during the week it is an evening meal. 71% of the population have adapted to this change during the week. However, on the weekend only 38% still have their hot meal in the evening, whilst the remainder enjoy the traditional midday meal. Nevertheless, Netherlands has many traditional foods that the Dutch would consume on both an everyday basis as well as special occasions. One of the most traditional foods that the Dutch consume is Hollands or Brind Nieuw, which is a raw herring served with raw onions and gherkins. Not only is this meal traditional, however the way of eating this dish is traditional to the Netherlands. It is eaten via lifting the herring above one's head and a bite is taken. The preparation of this meal must also be done to the Dutch tradition, in which the herring is cleaned, followed by the removal of its head, and as a specialty, it is conserved with salt. Another traditional meal is a thick erwtensoep. This split pea, celery and leek soup is traditionally eaten in the winter months of the year and has to be made to certain rules. It is said that erwtensoep is only a valid title to this dish if the thickness of the soup can keep a spoon vertically up. Special occasions call for certain traditional dishes. As stated earlier, oliebollen is served on New Year's Eve as a treat, and they are similar to that of a donut. They are yeast dough balls, either plain or filled with glazed fruits, and are served with powdered sugar. Houses often smell of hot oil and deep fat fries to prepare this dish, as well as apple beignets, which in Australia is similar to an apple fritter type dish. In the occasion of a birth, dishes such as Bechoit Mermesis, a traditional rusk covered with sugared aniseed, is served. During Christmas, the Netherlands sees families having brunches in which kerstol filled with almond paste is served, which is similar to that of raisin bread. Dinner on this occasion includes dishes such as roulade, roast pork, fame, or other luxury meats that may be served. The traditional ways of cooking, as well as the meals that are traditional to the Netherlands, are not followed in Australia. The food is shaped by the location in the fertile North Sea River of Dilta, and due to this European plain landscape, types of fish and cheese, as well as the farmed animals and crops grown, are not at all or readily available in Australia. Due to the acculturation, the Dutch cuisine and diet has changed. Traditional colonies such as the Dutch East Indies had a large influence on the eating patterns prior to the 20th century. However, as most international foods are now served and represented in the major cities of the Netherlands, the traditional way of eating and meals served have become much more cosmopolitan.
The dietary guidelines in Australia are somewhat similar to the guidelines in the Netherlands. Each pie chart is a visual representation of recommended foods that should be consumed each day. These charts highlight groups of foods, when consumed correctly in the right portions, would foster good nutrition and health. Eating along the right guidelines also means decreasing the risk of weight gain and possibly other health implications. The Australian Guide and the Netherlands Guide is made up of 5 sections. However, they do have a small difference. The biggest section, which is recommended to be consumed the most on a daily basis, are grain foods, mostly whole grain or high cereal fibre varieties. The next section consists of vegetables and beans. This is similar to the Netherlands chart. However, within the vegetable section is also fruits, whereas in the Australian Guide, fruit has its own unit. The next segments, which are the same, are the lean meats, nuts, fish and poultry section, as well as the dairy section, which includes milk, yogurt and cheese. The only major differences in the chart is that the butter and the oil take the small part of the chart. Drinks are also present on the Netherlands graph. The drinks section are just smaller than the vegetable and grain segments. The main drinks on the guideline refer to water and green tea, whereas on the Australian guideline, butter, oils and drinks sit outside the chart. Along with eating healthy, physical activity is also recommended to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. The Netherlands are very economical, as they are encouraged to ride their bikes or walk places rather than use other means of transport, such as cars. Physical activity in Australia is also recommended on a daily basis to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Due to Australia and the Netherlands being so similar in their dietary guidelines and physical activity on their day-to-day lives, it can be concluded that there aren't any major health implications which could affect someone if the guideline was followed correctly.